This is the king of the tournament so far. We got Alex playing Izzet Prowess. His play really impressed me last night in the finals in the Izzet Prowess mirror last night. Walk us through this deck list, Jim.
Yeah, so we're seeing the evolution here of the Izzet Prowess deck. Originally, Force of Spear, Force Select Shot, Show Off, kind of a more aggressive Prowess deck. And these decks are evolving as the format goes on, looking for edges in the mirror, Drake Catcher being a big one there. Also, Torch the Tower over Burst Lightning. You can't go face Torch the Tower, but it can kill a Drake Catcher. So they're evolving to beat each other and then try and beat everyone else as well.
Yep, and pretty impressive stuff. They're at that arms race against each other, but they're still doing well enough and not, suffering against other decks. So let's take a look at the opponent's deck list. It's Chris Patello playing Azorius control at X0-1. Honestly, impressive to be undefeated with blue-white control. I think a deck that's pretty solidly in that tier 1.5 or tier 2 category, but also impressive with only one draw because, you know what, this deck can take a while. Jim, walk us through this one.
Yeah, just classic control here. This is an actual control deck.
Yeah.
We have Jeskai control, won the last RC, almost a little more of a mid-range deck with a control slant. This is just control. Wraths, counter spells. This is a classic blue-white. Planeswalkers here with Jace. Decking is a very viable win condition with this deck. Main deck authorities obviously showing care to what the format is, but this looks great, and Chris is an excellent control player, so very excited for this match.
Yeah, I used to watch Chris a lot when Chris was doing a lot of streaming. Very good at talking out his plays and just a really smart human being. So going to be real. All right, down to the feature match area. We have Alex up top and Chris down below getting ready to start it off. Players can begin, and let's see who the leader of the tournament is going to be.
Love a good King of the Hill match.
I love it. Nothing better. Here comes the Otter, coming in from the Storm Chasers talent. And going to be a lot less exciting turns from Chris. It's going to be the case of, oh, Chris is losing, Chris is losing, Chris is losing, Chris is losing. Okay, he won.
Yes. Yeah, definitely very, very clear. It's, a lot of Standard is not so polarized. You have decks, kind of more in the mid-range scope, trying to figure out who's the beatdown, who's the control deck.
Yep.
Very, very obvious here.
Yes.
Alex wants to end the game. Chris wants the game to continue.
Yep, absolutely. And Alex is doing a great job at getting a good start of ending the game as here comes the Otter's second friend, and it looks like it's getting smited. Is there no land 2? Whoa!
That is frisky now.
That is frisky. We don't know if that was a lot of mulligans leading up. Maybe we can get some confirmation, because if you start your morning on the play, one lander, Storm Chasers talent, and you're just going on vibes, I mean, hey, I'm here for it. But
the thing is, it's also an island.
Yeah.
And the mana base of this Izzet deck is one of its, faults for sure.
Yeah.
Where sometimes you just have, opt, sleight of hand, flood maw, and you have 2 mountains or whatever it might be. So,
hear me out. Okay, Jim, let me know if you think this is accurate. Alex actually didn't play a second land drop on turn 2 to bait out a negate on an opt. Otherwise, if you're making land drops, you're not countering your cantrips. Now, next turn, Alex is going to stock up, no negate in sight. Boom.
Love it. Yeah. Very, very heads-up play. A control player would almost never counter a cantrip.
Yeah.
Even card draw spells, but a cantrip in particular is just a 1-for-1. But very juicy. Your opponent's Manosphere, they missed a land drop.
Yep.
So it's almost like a duress. I would actually love it if Alex skipped a land drop to do that play.
Yeah.
That would be unbelievable.
There is no shot that could have been true, but, man, it would be sweet. All right, heading over to Alex's 4th turn. Love those ops. What's that from?
Invasion.
Invasion? Okay.
I was there, Gandalf.
You were there.
That was right when I started playing.
How are your knees?
They're okay.
Better than mine.
Yeah, I'm glad we're sitting.
Okay. All right, so here is an opt. Drawing another card would look a lot better if there was a second Otter. The clock gets really, really quick if you have 2 of those. And I got to say, Chris's list, I would have played blue-white control as well, as anyone who's been watching the broadcast would have known. My list would have been much, much different, but I think Chris's list is much more teched, looks much sweeter for the tournament. Not playing as many counter spells, playing authorities in the main, which I think is pretty sweet. Big fan of Chris Patello's list.
Yeah, there's some cool synergies too, where obviously Authority is meant to be kind of like a main deck tech card against Izzet, mono red.
Yeah.
But it's split up and Rides Zen in your deck. things coming in tapped actually has relevance beyond just the usual application of the card.
Yeah, and also maybe the main reason why there's only 2 temporary lockdowns in the 75, that it's a Nombo with authority, so Chris is just fighting authority, it seems like.
Yeah, against this mono blue aggro deck.
Yes. All right. There is Drake Hatcher, I believe.
Yep.
And still no third land from Alex. So a lot of ops. Granted, one of them did get negated, but not able to find the land. And, I mean, this is the game. Stock up when you're up 14. Your opponent has 1 creature and only 2 lands. This is, you know, Chris still thinks he's sleeping from the night before. This is a dream.
Yeah, the one thing here, though, is that Alex missing land drops is full of gas. And
yeah.
The thing about this blue-white control deck is that, like, it wins very, very slowly.
True.
You give your opponent a lot of time to draw out of stuff.
Yeah.
You know? And once Alex finds the red source, kind of unlocks his hand, there's going to be a lot of things to fight through.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say the counterpoint there is, oh, sure, Alex finally found land 3. It's time to stock up. Well, now Chris has Cryptic Command ready to go, a.k.a., you know, being able to play 3 steps ahead with the draw ability, you know? Or, yeah, you're up against 2 islands. Sure, you could bounce this, but my River Regent did its best, you know, destroy target creature when it comes into play impression. A Necrotal, maybe that?
Necrotal, Ravenous Chupacabra,
Yeah.
Shriekmaw.
Yeah, it Chupacabra'd that otter, and now you just got to have a 6/7 body, and if Alex has the one way to quote-unquote deal with it, it's just back to hand. So I like that play from Chris.
Yeah, this is just showing how powerful of a control card this dragon is.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time, it's a card draw spell. The fact that it goes back into your deck for more threat density is great.
It's so messed up.
But when you cast it, you wouldn't play Meringue River Regent in your control deck as just a creature. It's like a hot Mahadi Jin that bounces some things, whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's just a secondary mode that you can do that is pretty effective when you have a game like this where, hey, you know what, they were a little slow to start this game. I can just ram this dragon into play and actually win the game pretty quickly.
Yep.
Is very powerful.
So here, if we do have 3 steps ahead, you can we can counter and make a copy. A little bit better than Cryptic Command here. Counter, get a 6/7, bounce this. The game is over.
Yeah. Double Dragon.
Yeah.
Right. Classic NES game.
I love it. I love it.
Didn't play that one either. So.
Okay.
That game and Final Fantasy are kind of blind spots for me.
Wow. Absolutely.
We'll get through it together, though.
Yeah. I mean, you might get through it. I don't know if I'm going to get through it if you call Cloud Link one more time. I'll tell you that. But let's look at the sideboard here. What is Alex going to have to do besides drawing a red source a little bit earlier?
So, as we've seen a lot from these Izzet decks, you know, game 1 is mostly linear. Game 1 is, you're kind of just almost like a mono red deck with some card draw and spice in it. But post-sideboard, things change drastically. Yeah. Spell Pierce, Disdainful Stroke, you know, having the ability to counter-view spells. You know, the average spell in Chris's deck is much more expensive. And when you tag a 4 or 5 mana spell with a 1 or 2 mana counterspell, the tempo swing is monumental. And that's the kind of push that Alex is going to need to get over the finish line. Yeah,
trading up, always good. So, from Chris Patello's side, I see some high noons. What else do we like?
Yeah, High Noon is the card against Izzet, as we've seen. And then we have Change the Equation, looks quite good as well. Both a card that can counter the red cards. But every blue card, for the most part, Alex's deck is also super cheap, too. So that's nice. Beza, obviously great. And kind of can lean a little more on the creatures, I think, too.
Yeah.
You know, I think that once the control deck gets to the post-board games, where these decks have more counterplay, counterspells, or whatever, the games aren't going to go as draw go smoothly. You know, when you're playing a control deck, you kind of have, you know, the draw go phase of the game. Then you hit a spot where things get a little messy, and you start just tapping out for stuff and kind of enter the slam phase, you know. And when you're tapping out for Beza or an Overlord of the Mistmoors, these are very powerful options that can kind of push you back into the game.
So, Jim, I have a question, and I kind of need some help with this, okay? So I really need to pick up all these additions that Chris has in the list for this blue-white control deck, but I only want to spend 90% of the value of the card. You know, like I need to save some money. I need 10% off. What should I do?
Well, lucky for you, Flash sale time. It ends Monday. 10% off select singles here. We see quite a variety of cards here, from Modern Staple Johnny Nakado Pariah to Displaced Dinosaurs, a card that me and Corey actually don't know the text of.
I'm gonna play a game as we do this flash sale. Okay, I'm gonna start guessing what I think it does, and we're gonna, without looking it up, try to figure it out. Okay, so I think when it dies, it makes another dinosaur. Do you think it makes a 6/6 or a 7/7 again? It might just be another 7/7 token dino.
Yeah, I think 6/6 would imply it like goes down the scale.
Yeah,
and that'd be pretty. 6/6 to a 5/5 to a 4/4 would be pretty good. So
that'd be too good, I think.
Yeah, I kind of like 7/7.
Okay. Sorry, continue your fantastic plug.
But yeah, you can go on and check out all these cards, and you get 10% off. Ends Monday, so don't skip out. You got a little break here. Pop on the browser, StarCityGames.com. Check out the sale.
I want to get that Umbra Mantle, too.
That card's cool. You know what that card does?
It untaps something instead of, like, you tap the creature, right?
Yeah, it has the weird, like, untap symbol from, I think it was Shadowmoor.
Yeah.
Where, like, if it's tapped, you can untap it. Extremely bizarre, obtuse mechanic that didn't play very well, but it was kind of a clever idea.
I don't know. It's pretty acute. But let's head on down to the match here and get ready to see if Alex can even this up. Do you think the matchup gets better or worse for Alex post-board?
I think better.
You think so? Even with high noons and stuff?
Yeah, I think the tools that Alex has, like the spell pierces and like the sample strokes, whatever, are just so important. And it helps press that early advantage where Chris has these kind of like haymakery cards, the sweepers, the split ups and stuff, where if you ever tag one of those, it just dramatically shifts the game. And the two high noons are very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is a cakewalk or whatever, but like things improve a lot for Alex. And I think play draw is very important too. Alex will play this game. We'll have to break serve in game 3 if Alex wins game 2, but should be a much more kind of competitive, not even competitive, but like back and forth game.
Yeah.
Less about Alex kind of just ramming things on the table and Chris answering them, and a little more counterplay and kind of chess move, counter move.
I don't know. Alex's cards went, back into play, then back into his hand. It was back and forth game. Like
the cards were back and forth, yes.
Do you think Chris is gonna bring in like overlords, or is that gonna be a plan B? We're gonna be not interested. There's 2 of them in the 75, and then there's 3 Biza in the main and 1 Biza in the board. Like, I feel like Biza when you're on the draw is probably better than Overlord, but I'm curious if he leaves those in too.
The interesting wrinkle there is that the cards that don't get tagged by Spell Pierce have a lot of extra appeal. Where it's funny. Usually you play against a control deck like that, where you're trying to line up your threats against their answers in the most awkward way possible for them.
Yep.
But Chris can do that too, because when you have these conditional counterspells, what makes them so interesting is there are ways to play around them. You know? That's kind of why counterspells has been reprinted in so long, because when the counterspell is universal, it can counter anything. It's less fun. But when you have these little kind of gaps and windows where, I can play a creature spell, or I can wait till you have more mana, or whatever else it might be, there's a lot of gameplay there and a lot of room for creativity.
It's always fun, too, when you're playing against blue-white control. You're like, all right, should I play around the Spell Pierce? Should I play around the No More Lies? Whatever one you play around, it's the other one.
Yep.
Always. Yep. You're always wrong. All right, Alex saw the only one island opener this time and said, not again. Ships it back.
I mean, it's funny. I would assume Alex's hand last game was talent, opt. And wanted to just get the second talent and play before playing the op looking for a land.
I agree.
Which isn't like a crazy keep. Definitely a little risky,
Do you? So that's the real question, because I agree. There's no way Alex just kept 2 talent, no cantrip, But the real question is, would you have opted on turn 2 to try to hit the land to play the talent again? I thought that's kind of like the forced play when you're playing cantrips and you miss your land drop,
Yeah, I think that the double threat early is quite powerful. Unfortunately for Alex, Chris did have one or 2
smite.
Or 2 smites in the deck, so there aren't many 1-mana removal spells in this deck. So that was the best possible card to have at that time.
Yeah.
So put a bit of a wrinkle into the aggro plan there. But yeah, I think I like playing second talent. Just getting on the board. You also have the back door where you could just draw land naturally.
Yeah.
That is a possible outcome as well.
Yep, absolutely. All right, starting it off with a Shivan Reef. Usually not the land you want to start with, but against control, who cares?
Yep.
Jam out the Otter.
Might as well be Volcanic Island.
Yeah.
Actually, the Reef is kind of nice here because much like with timely reinforcements, you can use it against Beza to lower your own life total. So
lower your life to get back to the life that you would have before you lowered it?
What?
So you're going to so you're Oh, yeah, never mind. You know what?
Against Beza.
You know,
you have your coffee today?
I have not had my coffee today.
God,
the line
Corey.
at Starbucks was very long, so forget I said anything. Corey Steelcutter came to the battlefield, and
that's Pulse of the Forge you're thinking of for the boomers out there.
Yes.
Look it up.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I was mixing up the sides of life totals and who had Beza, but yeah, here we go. I'm caught back up. High noon coming down. So Corey Steelcutter is all of a sudden just an equipment that gives a creature haste.
Yeah, this is obviously the card of a tournament against Izzet.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely looks amazing. It's just brutal how it invalidates Corey Steelcutter. No matter how you look at it, without an Into the Floodmaw or anything like that, you are just not getting that monk into play. There's no way to do it.
Yeah, and the Floodmaws, I think, are the card that put this deck kind of over the top, where it is so good at universally answering the cards that are good against it.
Yeah.
But against High Noon, it's a short window where you can end step bounce it, and then how you can untap, have a pretty good turn. But Chris has a lot of answers to that in counter spells and a lot of sweepers where if that turn isn't really good, Chris just untaps, plays a lockdown, and then plays High Noon again, which is a problem.
Yeah.
And then the only way for Alex to remove this would be to bounce it and then counter it, which of course requires a lot of setup.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. High Noon does seem super sweet. But when you're playing a lot of lockdowns in your deck, it is a bit of a nombo. So I really like Chris's choice to only play 2, even though if you go into this tournament, sure, High Noon is the card against Izzet, but you usually can't main deck it. Some do, but it's maybe not the best card. You play that against Demir or something. You're like, nice High Noon, But when I would just tell you, hey, this blue-white control deck is only playing 2 lockdown in the list, you would be like, what?
So I'm going to push back there a bit.
Yeah.
I think locking down your own High Noon is actually often good.
Okay.
And this is something we found in testing where, you would think intuitively that putting a Authority of the Consuls or a High Noon under your own lockdown is a nombo. Mm-hmm. It actually is counterplay to their counterplay. So their goal is to end step Floodmaw, unlock all of their stuff, untap and kill you with a huge burst of damage.
Sure.
But if they also unlock your High Noon or Authority, it's much more difficult to do that. So you play High Noon or Authority, you slow them down a little bit, they overcommit, you lock down, and now you have that safety valve under your lockdown as well.
Okay. Yeah, that is really interesting. Was this something that you and the team, were you a part of the blue-white control chat at all at the last Pro Tour with Ely playing stock up and stuff?
Nah, that was Ely and RA.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, this is just I was playing with Nicole this tournament, playing with the New York guys as well. Just jamming games, talking about the format and stuff. And, the evolution was, Izzet, lockdown's good against Izzet.
Okay.
Floodmaw's good against lockdown. And then once I started playing for Floodmaws, okay, well, what's the counterplay? And that often is it.
Okay. That checks out. Boom. All right, here is Beza. Your whole line you were setting up from the beginning didn't work. That Shivan Reef didn't deal enough damage. So Beza comes down, gains the life. The fish have arrived. The little fish.
Yeah, game
block the otters.
Game looking great for Chris here so
Yeah.
far. Everything's going to scripts. The High Noon is fantastic. Beza just so good. And the big thing about this isn't that, like I was saying, is that usually you're able to kind of Floodmaw, bounce the hate piece, going for this big burst of damage. But that burst of damage usually has to end the game. And Beza makes that very difficult to do. And here we go. Party time.
Chris already had so many fish, but Alex gives him another fish. A much more blah-looking fish, though.
Yeah.
So maybe that fish has been left out for like 4 hours. Should probably get some health code violations going with that one.
It's a sad fish.
That is a sad fish. Look at those happy, thriving fish next to it, though.
We got to get a hat for Chris that says gone fishing.
Yeah, there we go. I could see Chris being a fisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See that
Yeah. There is an opt. Now Corey Steelcutter finally triggers. These otters are getting swole, and this has to represent the rage of the monstrous variety, you would think, right?
Yeah, but I don't think that's that bad for Chris. One of the things about Beza is just throw it in front of something. Okay, kill it. It already gained life. It bought a bunch of damage, a bunch of time. And like I said, this is the problem where Alex is going to bounce the High Noon. Alex is going to get this one shot, this big burst of damage, but High Noon just coming back down next turn. And Chris is at a very safe life total.
So here's the Monstrous Rage. I love that block on the 2/2 Monk, as now this is going to get a Prowess trigger. It's going to get another Toughness, so it's going to trade. if Patello were to block the Biza on the Otter would just eat the Biza. So no surprise to anyone. Chris Patello makes the best block with Monstrous Rage in mind.
And preserves a bunch of life.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You know, the chump blocking fish are also excellent. 16 after the big burst turn, quote unquote,
Yeah.
is phenomenal.
And here's a sign of the blue-white control player either about to wrath or they're far ahead, attacking.
Not a sad fish anymore.
No, this fish is thriving now.
Yeah, and this is the 1-2 punch here, where a lockdown or a split up comes up, everything gets swept, and then you re-put down the high noon, and it's just, now what? There only are so many into the Flood Maws in Alex's deck.
And now, like, you need 2 of them. You need 2 more.
Yeah, it's basically lockdown is permanent here because trying to unlock all that stuff and then also win through high noon is tough.
You know, that being said, if there is, let's say we get land for there and flood into the Flood Maw, which I did just see, almost assuredly going to Alex's hand, and you just go, all right, Chris's end step, into the Flood Maw, bounce the lockdown, untap, just play stock up. That's still a good chunk of damage. But, you know, the problem with that, too, is Chris can then have a counterspell available because he's never playing anything during his turn most of the time.
Right, and the problem, of course, is that when you bounce the lockdown, Chris can just cast it again next turn.
Yeah,
so
yeah. You at least get a hit for 6 in is what I'm trying to say, you know? Yeah. But, yeah, that's not a lot.
Yeah, so Chris is going right according to script here, keeping Let's Total high, getting these pieces in play that are so good against Alex, giving too many things for Alex to almost answer in a fun way, where like Chris's threats are these really well-crafted answers that are kind of turning Alex's game off, and a lot of the cards that Alex brought in, like Spell Pierce, like Disdainful Stroke, they get a lot worse when you're not ahead.
Yes.
You know, where, okay, even if Alex, say next turn Chris just untaps and slams an Overlord.
Yeah.
And Alex Disdainful Strokes it. That looks like a good exchange on face value, but it's not really advancing Alex's plan of winning the game.
Yep, totally agree with you. Because eventually the blue-white control deck always, you know, takes over. There's only 2 Fountain Ports in Chris's list instead of the quote-unquote more stock version. Yeah, it just really seems like Chris's list. I just keep awing over it. It's instead of playing 4-ofs of all the cards you would think to play 4-ofs in blue-white control, Chris is very much diversified and played a lot of cards that are, you know, similar. Wow, are you plotting against High Noon? Isn't that an actual crime?
Yeah, I remember early in the High Noon process when that card kind of came out as a card. I remember my opponent going turn 2 plot, show off. I cast turn 2 High Noon, and they just conceded. This is like kind of like pre-Flood Maw being stock. It was just like, okay, we're done. I'm out of here.
Whatever, so. Jim. I was sick of playing that game, okay? That was annoying. But yeah, I mean, all jokes aside, you either play it now, it's a 1-2, or you play it next turn and you can't pump it and it's a 1-2. So just play it now as a 1-2, right?
Well, this could be the plan of, like, you know, abandoning the lockdown. And we saw Alex does have a Flood Maw available. So maybe you fire a few plots in and try it again, set up for that one really big turn. Here we go.
Are we doing it now? Or is this at Chris's end step? I'm not sure if he, like, passed already.
Oh, Sad Fish is back.
Sad Fish.
Yeah. So I assume it's
take your fish. I don't want it.
Yeah, I assume end step. But
okay.
This is also the problem against Chris's deck where, like, Alex has to try and set up. He only has so many Flood Maws, and there are many more counterspells that Chris has, and other interaction, too. There's no guarantee, even if that worked, that Alex's attack would have even been that good.
Yeah, no kidding. Alex just feels like he's in an impossible situation, even if Chris just draws blank after blank after blank. What we have in play is still so good.
Yeah, Alex has a lot of work to do. And again, these Flood Maws are really working overtime. 2 are already gone. Now, we can see talent buy them back, but Alex got at a pretty significant mana disadvantage here.
Yep.
So, you know, a lot to work through. And Chris just living the blue-white life, you know, where you're ahead, you got things all lined up, cards in hand, mana up, just sitting back and going, oh, what is that you're playing here?
Yeah.
Is that important? I don't know.
Somewhere Shaheen Sarani is smiling at blue-white control thriving right now.
I'm smiling too.
Me Steelcutter comes down on the battlefield and looks incredibly sad.
I'm actually amazed. That's like the first Corey Steelcutter we've had so far this broadcast.
You know, I'm still upset that they misspelled it, you know, after, you know, this being my invitational card. That, you know, they think they would have proofread a little bit, but hey, I don't judge. I'll allow it this time. I'll just be a little sad.
You should offer a service where you, between rounds when you're not broadcasting on your off rounds, have a Sharpie and just fix everyone's Steelcutters.
Yeah, there we go.
Get your Steelcutters fixed here, $1 each.
My signature on cards is already so bad that I already feel bad signing cards, so I really don't want to be defacing anyone's really nice standard staples here for the next few years. Meticulous Archive surveils a Verge into the yard. The other thing I love about Chris Patello's list, I feel like I could go on for days as we got some time, is Demolition Field is not necessarily a card we see played a lot, but it is the type of land that gets much better in an open deckless tournament. Being able to see you have one basic and know that you can start picking away lands and stuff like that, that's a true advantage, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. It's the basic check, you know, waxes and wanes, and when, you know, Demolition Field is not a major part of any deck in the format.
Yeah.
So when you build it, me and Nicole actually tried a domain list that was cutting down almost all the basics. Cutting out Analyze the Pollinage, playing more duels. We're like, no one's playing Demolition Field, right?
Yeah.
You know, but it's so risky to want to do that. And then you go down, and then, there's Chris. The Stone Rain got you.
Yeah, just Chris smiling in the corner, like, no one's playing basics, I swear. Get Lost on the Slick Shot show-off that equipped to the Corey Steelcutter. Get a couple of maps. And no more spells allowed to be played from either player, so we're going to be sending it back.
Yeah, High Note's cool in this control deck as well because each player is limited to one spell per turn.
Yeah.
And for a deck that plays primarily at instant speed, you get one spell on your turn and one spell on their turn.
Yeah.
And a lot of decks can't utilize the ability to play spells on your opponent's turn. Obviously, Alex can cast an Opt or whatever or something like that, but for the most part, he's playing threats at sorcery speed.
Yeah.
So kind of a fun way to break parity on the card.
I mean, we saw when we started the broadcast yesterday, Matt Nass lost kind of to his own High Noon.
Yep.
And that was a situation with Domain where he wanted to play multiple spells. He needed to play multiple spells, but his own High Noon was a liability. It has not looked like it's mattered as a negative to Chris at all.
Yeah, just fantastic positioning. And it's so awkward when you have all these cantrip in your deck. And, all right, sleight of hand's my one spell. It might as well cost 3 or 4.
Yeah. So the Shivan Reef still looking good. Alex is at 8, bro.
I mean, the next basic won't gain life.
Yeah, that is true. The next few.
Mission accomplished. Now, one funny thing here is, of course, in Jeskai Control or other red-based decks, High Noon, the ability 6 mana deal 5 of something is alive. In Chris's deck, it's not alive unless a Fountain Port shows up.
Yeah.
And make that treasure. So Alex is at 7. If any Fountain Port shows up, all of a sudden there's a Lava Axe on the table as well.
There's a Planeswalker on the table, though, too. That resolved. That is a big deal here.
Wow, that's surprising. Yeah, and Get Lost, one of those Planeswalker answers was just cast on a previous turn. So
could be another one.
Yeah.
Could definitely be another one. But if there's not, you got to think, maybe Chris was a little hasty with dealing with. Never mind, has it. Okay, so Get Lost. Rawl is gone. More maps. And now it's an Otter against the world.
Yeah, not like the most devastating exchange because Alex at least has a threat in play with this.
Boom!
That's always a bigger fish. But, in theory, if the Otter picked up the cutter, got some map counters, and got to be a threat that could actually do some damage, but Overlord here, and even the 2 mana up with the counterspell as well. Looking pretty good for Chris.
There's never been more commentator moments that have been derailed by someone casting an Overlord of the Mistmore. It's just like, I'm making a point. Nothing matters anymore.
Yep, sorry.
The game has changed.
This game is altered a little bit.
It has to be, the most powerful creature in Standard. It just, Grave Titan 2.0, just a phenomenal, phenomenal card.
Yeah, there are not many cards that can affect the board the way Overlord does.
Yeah. It's like, I can fight through this. I can fight through this. No, you never can.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But Alex says, I'm going to keep trying.
I'm going to try. Okay. Second Otter Planeswalker. Second Rawl. Do you do the same? Do you make an otter, or do you gotta have to brainstorm for something? I mean, now the pressure's on, and you know, just like Into the Flood Mob being the only real answer for Lockdown and High Noon, it's the same case for this Overlord. You can't beat that card.
Yeah, Overlord sort of has like suspend one, win the game too, where like
Yeah.
the initial casting is a unbelievable amount of value, blockers and stuff. But if you can't kill it, they get to basically do it again the next turn.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all she wrote. So definitely, you know, a little light on win conditions here, as most control decks are. But Overlord being, you know, it's in the board, it comes in, it's an extra threat. Like I said, the games can get messy. This is not one of those messy games. This is where, hey, I'm just going to cast this Overlord, win this game. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But when the game does get messy, it can be kind of effectively powerful card. But yeah, and then suspend one, there's that Overlord attack, and just so many moths. And Izzet just doesn't have a catch-up mechanic.
Makes a lot of sense. The Moth kills roll. Overlord smashes in for a big chunk of damage, and Chris just with a beating. I mean, this was just clinical. From the second they sat down to start their morning to the inevitable spot where now Chris Patello is now the leader, the sole leader of the tournament, Jim.
Yeah, watching that match, I am not surprised that Chris is undefeated in this tournament. Looks like extremely well prepared for Izzet, but also has the advantage of the control deck is going to line up well against a lot of decks trying to beat Izzet.
Yeah.
You know, a deck like Mono Black Demons, you know, a deck that's literally just Doom Blades and 6/6s, like, lines up pretty poorly against No More Lies and removal spells and card draw. So being able to have a deck that's good against the best deck, but also good against decks that are good against the best deck is a great place to be.
Yeah, 100%. In my testing,